Hello, everyone. My name is Makita Williams. I'm one of the facilitators. I know we're waiting for someone else. I just have a question. If anyone could help me figure out how to change into co-host, that would be great. Thank you. Not
Makita,
sure.
I can assist you there.
Oh,
Oh no, I can't.
perfect.
I think I'm also
Thank
a
you so
co-host.
much.
I'm also a co-host. I think it's only Francis that can do that.
Sorry, could you
but
say that again?
It's only Francis that can do that. Because I'm also just a co-host, so I can't make you also a co-host. But I don't think it's needed really. I'm recording the session, so I think it's fine.
Okay,
Not
perfect.
essential right
Thank
now.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so I'll just get started.
Sorry, I missed out. I came in late because I had an issue. Is Rolanda presenting, or I have to present Nikki's recording?
So I'm presenting first. This is Wisdom.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
And then you'll play Nikki's recording after I do. Okay.
Yeah, I'm also here, so I can do it live if necessary.
All right. Okay, so so my name is Rolanda Julius. I'm based at the DSI Africa Coordinating Center at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. So I'm going to today just give you a brief overview of the talks of the projects where you have heard of most of the ongoing research and training today. And then I'm also going to expand a little bit about the capacity building efforts of the Coordinating Center and where LWASI ODSP is also involved. All right, so
Rolanda, before you begin, is it okay that I can just say a few housekeeping words before you start?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So just to introduce myself, everyone, my name is Dr. Makita Williams. I serve as the Global Health Program Director for the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute at the NIH. I'm also joined with my colleague, Dr. Wisdom Kaguru. And Wisdom, please feel free to introduce yourself briefly.
Thanks very much. I'm not a doctor yet, but thanks for the introduction.
Oh,
I'm just backing
wishful
up
thinking.
to you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you to you for helping moderate this session with me, and also to welcome people. I know some people are still trying to join from the May session, so I just want to be mindful of that. But just really quick housekeeping before we get started. Please feel free to introduce yourself within the chat because there's so many of us, we may not have the time to go individually, and I know that Rolanda would like to begin with her session. And so each presentation will be about 10 to 12 minutes. We may have a little bit more time because we only have two. And if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat. And then once we hear the first presentation, we can take questions and then we can go on to the next. I will have to drop out a little early, so I'm grateful that Wisdom will help to keep the train going. If you have any other questions, you can message me directly or put it in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, and I'll also be sending messages to the speakers just to let them know when time is nearing for them to close out on their presentation. With that being said, thank you so much, Rolanda, for your patience. I'll now turn it back over to you.
Good, thanks so much, Makita. All right, so I'm just going to give you a bit of information about the Coordinating Center and the capacity building efforts. But before I get into that, I will just give a brief overview of all the projects that you've had a listen to today, just putting them into context and of how they fit into the DSI Africa Consortium. Right. So Michelle has showed this slide earlier today. This is depicting all the countries. Currently, there's 22 African countries where the DSI Africa has footprint in, and a total of 38 projects that are contributing with research or training or LC projects, and these are the focus areas which cross-cut between public health, clinical medicine, and genetics. Right, so I'll go into more detail in a few slides coming. So one avenue that we're actually really proud of is to see this cross-project collaborations. So some of them had been requested, those between research hubs and the LC project. However, others really started forming organically, particularly between training programs and research hubs. And this is very, very useful because, of course, you can imagine the impact or the individual impact of projects are now going to be expanded based on these interactions. So this is just one avenue that we're really proud to see happening in this consortium. All right, so first of all, to go through all of the projects and put them into perspective, we have the Alwazi ODSP and the Coordinating Center, which is headed up respectively by Professor Nikki Mulder and Dr. Michelle Skelton. And we are based here at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Just in the presentation after this, Nikki will give some more information about what the Alwazi ODSP does for you. Right, so then we have 4 LC projects, and these are ethical, legal, social implication projects, and they are tasked to develop and create policies and frameworks regarding data sharing and data governance, particularly because, as you can imagine, the Research Hub have these multi-country projects going on, and as such, the LC projects assist in that multinational data sharing policies and practices. And then we have these 7 research hubs. The research hubs engage in multidisciplinary research, and they access expertise of both industry but also government, which is also quite interesting dynamic there. And they have, of course, various focus areas which we have the privilege of listening to today. So I won't go into more detail than that, but they carry out research in data science to answer critical healthcare problems within Africa. Then we have the smaller research projects. There's 13 of them in total. You've also heard from quite a few of them today. And they have specific research focus areas, particularly congenital heart disease, malaria, TB transmission, pediatric HIV, complex variant analysis, developmental disorders, and polygenic risk scores. Then we have 7 training programs, and these ones offer degree programs. So there's 7 of these, and you'll see a lot of them are based on East Africa, and a few of them on the West African coastline, and very few inland. But in the next slide, I'll show you a bit more details. So they have MSc, MPhil, and PhD programs. The programs have specialization areas within computational imaging, computational biology, computational omics, public health, data science for health, and biomedical informatics. In addition to delivering the next generation of data scientists with these training programs, they also have faculty mentoring programs, which is a very interesting program. And this means that not only are they advancing the careers of trainees, but they are also advancing the careers of trainers. And it is anticipated at the end of this first funding cycle, they would have delivered over 150 master's degrees, 20 PhD degrees, over 15 postdocs, or supporting over 15 postdocs, and mentoring over 50 faculty members. So then we also have some smaller research education projects. There's 6 of these, and you would have heard from a few of them as well today. They have specific focus areas as well. As you can see, these brain health, open science, foodborne disease, synthetic data, zoonosis, and foodborne pathogens, as well as medical image analysis. And they are expected to deliver a few webinars, short courses, hackathons, and internships. So they're particularly focusing on short-term training. So then we support the academic programs and all this training with some ancillary training. Initially, when the consortium started, we did a bit of a needs assessment to find out what training might be needed in the consortium. And these key areas were identified as grant writing, grant administration, mentorship, professional development, resources and tools, or highlighting these at least, scientific report writing, science communication, and stakeholder engagement. The benefit of being in this consortium is that projects can access these courses that are offered by us, but also cross-project training, and that is the nice plus of being part of the consortium. And I'm going to highlight in the next slide a few of these trainings that we've delivered so far. So we have delivered quite a few of in-person training. I just want to point out that this list is not exhaustive. I'm only highlighting few cases where the coordinating center has directly been involved, but the projects themselves have also independently run a few courses, and these will be highlighted within their project presentations. So we run an annual datathon, which coincides with the annual DSI Africa Consortium meeting, which happens once a year. Then we've had a REDCap workshop. REDCap is a database. I'll give some detail about that later. Then we've also collaborated with the Rwanda training program to have a synthetic data workshop. And then the PubChem group and the Madresh group has also partnered up to deliver a centering workshop on ethics and imaging analysis in Africa. And then we've had a couple of online trainings as well. So we've had a few webinars, basically showcasing tools and resources, and these were pathways to the cloud and persistent identifiers. And then we were making good strides in engaging policymakers in health research. I believe we've already had a second webinar in this. And then we are currently also highlighting tools and resources that are now cutting edge in data science. And we've earlier this year just launched the Tools for Data Science webinar series. And here I must point out that the early career researchers are the champions of this webinar series. And then we also access paid-for services or paid-for courses. And these are the series of University of Washington e-learning department in global health courses. And we've successfully accessed and managed to run classrooms for fundamentals of implementation science, monitoring and evaluation in global health, and project management in global health. And recently, we've also just been given the green light to run the policy and advocacy in global health course. And then we've also accessed software carpentry training, specializing in training on Python, Git, and Unix systems. Right, so this is just showing you one of the most recent datathons we've had in the third DSI Africa Consortium meeting, which took place in November last year in Rwanda. So yeah, the participants had to work in teams, and they got the experience to work, for example, on Jupyter notebooks. They've run code in Python, and with the help also of the Medeva project and the Uzima project, they've had some experience in analyzing some African data, and the Alwazi ODSP has also assisted in supporting that with the platforms that they make available, such as Terra. All right, so all of these are actually discussed. We don't plan this on our own, so we discuss on monthly meetings in the DSI Africa Training and Education Working Group. We discuss trainings or needs of trainings that we would like to do. So this is just an overview of what this working group is all about. So they really want to share resources and training materials. They identify training needs and gaps. They support the early career researchers, and we also have two task teams currently. One looking at a competency framework for biomedical data science, and another looking at designing an introduction course for biomedical data science. So this group meets monthly, and it's not only consortium members engaged in training that attend these meetings, it's also members from the ELSI project as well as the research project, so that have a keen interest in training and education. So a little bit more detail about the competency framework. We've made quite a few developments there, and by the end of the year, we would like to send this framework out for review to a panel of experts. And of course, we would also like to see it published and implemented. But essentially, we started working on it based on the International Society for Computational Biology's Bioinformatics Competency Framework. And then we also augmented some of the work with frameworks that we've looked at from IBM and as well as Edison, and also some published literature. I must point out one major challenge of this competency framework is the need to really balance machine learning components with domain expertise in biomedicine. So the multidisciplinary nature of data science really posed a challenge for developing such a framework. So a bit more detail of this. If the framework is implemented correctly, it should be, you should be able to map, for example, a career development. And in addition to that, you should be able to map your data science curricula using the framework. So the personas that we've developed there, in broad terms, there'll be a data science user, a data scientist, and a data engineer, but then they also have categories such as a novice user, an intermediate user, and an advanced user, and so forth, a novice scientist, and so forth. So that way, you have a little bit of play for mapping a career development of an individual with this framework. So we are hoping to implement this. And then a little bit more information about this new data science course or introductory course. We've started our planning sessions. So we have a very broad list of modules so far, but we're still all under development. But really the thinking behind this is that we have a lot of existing training material within the consortium, and we really want to leverage this to package it in a short-term training. Particularly because these long-term training programs, so it should appeal to those students who are thinking of entering an MSc or a PhD degree in data science. Then this course would be for them to see if this is really what they would want. But it's also for professionals that are thinking of working on projects where they engage with data science. They may come from a biology background. And then this way they will also get an overview of what health data science or biomedical data science is all about. So it really will have the flavor of the DSI Africa Consortium, because we will probably, of course, use examples of focus areas from the consortium. But we plan to deliver this online, a blended course, but this is also still under discussion. So. And again, the multidisciplinary nature of data science also gives us a bit of a challenge, because of course you'll have to carefully balance now machine learning models versus domain expertise modules in clinical medicine, as an example. All right, so yes, the training education working group, they support the early career researchers also by running an annual travel award, which is competitive for trainees. They have to submit an abstract, which is scored by members of the working group. And if successful, they get travel support to attend the annual consortium meeting, where they also compete for the best presenter prize by presenting their work to the consortium. All right, so just to define very quickly our early career researchers, these are individuals who have not obtained a PhD or a medical degree more than 6 years ago, and we support them by various ways. So they have their own distribution list, they have a WhatsApp group. As I mentioned, they champion this Tools for Data Science webinar series. They get to present their work annually at the consortium meeting. And we provide travel support to a flagship machine deep learning Indaba event, which is one of the flagship events for the machine learning community. And recently, we've also asked the ECRs to plan their own theme session at the 4th DSI Africa Consortium meeting. Right, so then just a few highlights of some of our resources that we have in place. So we have this training calendar, which can be accessed from the dsiafrica.org website. And this highlights all the events from all the members. So all projects can send us events, and then we list them here for everybody to have access to. It's a little bit interactive, so that if you hover over any one event, you can actually see the start date, for example, or how many days it is to the start date. And it also provides a link either to the website where you can apply for it, or just a flyer, even if it's a closed event. It obviously won't give information of how you will actually attend the event, but it will just give an overview of the event that is happening. All right, and then one of the other resources that we are very proud of using is our REDCap data collection instrument. So we do all our course applications, meeting registration, polls or presentation, scoring sheets on the REDCap. Data protection is very important to us. And as such, we've also registered REDCap with our Human Research Ethics Committee at the University of Cape Town. And thereby we make sure we have the proper policies in place to protect the consortium member data. All right, and then lastly, I just want to highlight that we also do a little bit of outreach. So this is us at the Science Forum South Africa in December 2023. We actually attract folks to our stand by having this puzzle competition. The puzzle is in fact the African map showing the DSI Africa sites, and participants have, like, I think, Daniel, I think it's 1 minute or so to complete this puzzle. But that way, when we attract into the stand, we get to tell them a little bit more about the consortium. And we also run a Kahoots quiz where we ask general knowledge questions about data science. And these are just a few ways of how we actually attract folks to the stand. And in the next slide, this is the most recent outreach activity at the Deep Learning Indaba X that took place at Wits University in July this year, where we also had the opportunity to tell folks more about DSI Africa. Right, and that is the end of my story. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your presentation. What we will do, just in the interest of time and efficiency, we'll have Prof. Nicola Mulder go next, and then we'll have a big Q&A at the end, which Wisdom will moderate. So if everybody could just please put your questions in the chat or hold them and just put a pin in them until it's time for the Q&A. Again, many thanks for such a great presentation, Rolanda, and just a lot of great work that the CC is doing. And so now I'll turn it over to Prof. Nikki Mulder to tell us more about Uluwazi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll try to be quick so that we've got more time for questions. So Rolanda's already taken you through all the major projects in the consortium, but this is just to highlight the depth and diversity of the different projects in terms of their topic areas. So we have the training grants, we have the training degree programs, we have the research hubs, and then the research projects. And I think you can see from these research projects that there's a huge diversity in data types. Clinical data, environmental data, climate data, image data, etc. So one of the things that we need to do as the Open Data Science Platform is really address the needs of the projects that have multiple partners, multiple different data types, needing to integrate these different data types. You've heard from the previous rounds about the details of some of the projects. They need to be able to pull these data sets together, pull pieces of the data sets as well, and then access tools and compute, and then also storage for their data. And this needed to be flexible because, you know, we're all sitting in resource limited settings, and it needs to be feasible for the African context. So our aim was to develop this open data science platform that enabled the exploration of data, the analysis of data, and then the compute. And that's specifically to serve the projects within the DSI consortium, but also beyond that. So if we see projects that need to use an infrastructure like this, then we want to be able to support them. So as I said, it needs to be flexible and scalable, and that means that not everybody has access to cloud. Some people are having their data sets in different places, and we need to be able to be flexible to adapt to different needs. We also want to facilitate capacity development. So the training in Alwazi is not just about using our facilities and using the tools, but also to be able to build workflows, to build the tools, to use the tools. And we work closely with the coordinating center in building our training program. So this is an overview of the ODSP, the Open Data Science Platform. So it has three main components. There's the data side of things, there's the tool side, and then there's the compute. And then we have an interface on top of that so that you can access the platform. So to go into a little bit more depth about the data, so different projects will have different data sets. Almost every single one of them has more than one data set, and these might be coming from very different sources. They're existing data sets, they might not all be their own, so they might be coming from different existing research projects that have specific access requirements. They might be stored in different places, so they might be stored in a cloud bucket on AWS or GCP or Azure, or they might be stored on-prem on local facilities. So what we do in Alwazi is we help the projects to index the metadata, but also to create a repository service of an indexing of their data sets, so that if you want to access the data set for analysis, that the system, the infrastructure knows where to find those data sets and what are the security access requirements associated with those data sets, and then how to pull out pieces of those data sets for compute. And then for the indexed metadata, we have worked with the projects to create sort of a harmonized set of metadata, and that has gone into the a metadata catalog for the consortium. So we have a prototype of that, and it's being constantly refined. So that allows you to search for the different data sets. So the next component is the tools and the compute. So the tools are all available. We try to make as many of the tools openly accessible as possible in DocStore. So that's some of the individual software stacks as well as containerized workflows. And then in order to access these tools, we want to adapt to both the beginner user and the more advanced user. So we have everything from web interface and Jupyter notebooks to command line interface. And then once you've chosen your tools, then we need to be able to provide compute. And so we have the platform sitting on different compute environments, AWS, Azure, and GCP, as well as the opportunity to use on-prem solutions. So basically the architecture, which I've just described there, to simplify it, we have these data sets, we have the tools, and we have the compute. So a user will come to their workspace in Alwazi, so they'll log into a workspace, and then they'll be able to search the metadata catalog to say what data sets are there, and what is the access requirement. Do I have access to them? Once they have approved access, then they'll be sort of authorized to grab data from those data sets. They will then be able to choose tools from the tool set or from DocStore, and then they'll be able to run those tools on the data in their required compute environments. And all of these underlying infrastructure uses Global Alliance for Genomics and Health, or GF4GH standards. So we have two implementations. We have Terra and Gen3. So Terra is produced by the Broad Institute, and we have it's used for a number of high-profile projects, and we have one of the kind of instances of this. So you can come into the Alwazi via Terra workspaces. You log into your workspace, you access your tools. So this picture on the right shows you what the workspace looks like when you've got some of your data in there, and then you can find the tools you want and run those. So this is available on GCP and Microsoft Azure. And then we have a Gen3 implementation. Gen3 is also being used for some high-profile projects. This is the access to the Alwazi Data Commons. But Gen3 also allows implementation on local HPCs. So we've got Gen3 installed on Ilifu in Cape Town, and in 2 centers in Uganda and in Mali. So that's the basic infrastructure. You have to select one or the other. What we're working on in the future, and we've sort of piloted this, is a federated approach where if you have your data set sitting in different places, not all on Azure, or some on Azure and some in GCP and some in on-prem, that we use a technology called Data Connect to enable you to actually access your data sets on different places and send your tools to the data sets and then bring the results back. So this is something we're working on. So all our work in Alwazi is done through our working groups. We have an infrastructure working group, a data working group, tools, outreach and support, and then monitoring and sustainability. And we have some great people who are leading these working groups. We encourage everybody who's interested in helping to kind of work with these groups and drive the development of Alwazi to join our working groups. They're open to people to work with. So just a summary of how we can support projects. For data, we're helping people with harmonizing their metadata and their data as well, looking at data models, appropriate data models to use, data harmonization and data management. For tools, we make software stacks available, but we can also help you, if you need it, to develop new workflows and containerize those. We can ease the access to computing. We can't pay for all your computing, but we can ease the access, so facilitating you getting billing accounts, cloud credits, etc., and then help you to structure your analyses for a particular computing environment. And then we provide training. So we're working with a coordinating center. You've heard from Rolando about the training activities we have. So we also have a trainer in terms of the training facilities, and we have a lot of SOPs in that from our experience in running bioinformatics training across the continent for the last decade. So here are some useful links. There's the Alwazi website, and actually all the other links you can get to from the Alwazi website. We have our catalog, and we have the different implementations. So with that, I'd just like to acknowledge the team. So we have collaborators from the US, the EBI and the UK centers in Africa. And I'd like to acknowledge our project coordinator, Samar Panji, and the funding from the NIH. And I'm open to questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Prof. Mulder, and our other speaker, Rolanda. So right now, we would like to take questions. If there are any questions that are comments, you are more than welcome to put that in the chat, or you can raise your hand and then I will acknowledge you. I think we have a couple from the chat, from Akintumi, if I got that right. Thanks, Nikki, for your presentation. How can one access the Alwazi platform? Can any researcher across the access the platform, or only researchers with data set in the DSI Africa Consortium? Maybe you can pick that one and then.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. So our primary aim in terms of grant deliverables is to serve the DSI Consortium, but we have recognized that there are many other groups around Africa that want to have their projects accessing the platform, but we do have some requirements. So we're not just kind of a free platform. So one of the requirements would be that your metadata would be harmonized and available in the catalog, so that if other people can see, they don't need to necessarily have full access to it, but they can at least see what data sets are part of your project, so that they can then contact you and request access. If they are open, that's all the better. So we do require that your data sets would at least be indexed in the catalog, and then the storage and the compute, that would be the cost would be for you, because normally it would be sitting in a cloud facility. So we kind of have a two-way street. So we need it needs to be some benefit to the consortium to have your project in there. So we take things on a case-by-case basis to say, well, how relevant is it to data science? How relevant is the platform to your needs? And then whether you're willing to have your data indexed and sort of becoming part of the wider data sets.
Thank you. I think I do not see any hands for now, so I'll just continue with the second question on the chat. Also, does the Alwazi serve as data repository? If yes, I suggest data sets from the previous efforts in the H2 Africa funded by NIH and welcome be deposited with data dictionaries for African researchers.
Yes, so that is definitely something we considered, actually. So the problem there is that not all the data sets are downloadable. They all have, because most of them have got clinical data, they all have some sort of access requirements. So we can actually consider putting indexing the H3 Africa data sets in the catalog and putting them in there. There is already an H3 Africa catalog, and that is linked directly to the Data and Biospecimen Access Committee. So what we could do is have data sets indexed in the Alwazi catalog, and then point them to, if you want to request access, then you can point them to the H3 Africa catalog. But it would be nice to make them more findable. We obviously can't grant access to them because access always goes via the Data and Biospecimen Access Committee, and then technically that goes directly to the European Genome Phenome Archive. But I think there's a way that we could have them visible in the platform, and then because the EGA, in fact, conforms to quite a lot of these GF4GH standards, I think it would be possible to then be able to, once you have been authorized to access a data set from H3 Africa, be able to compute on those data sets from the EGA using some of the GF4GH standards. So that's certainly something that we will consider. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a question about if there's any cost associated with accessing the Ilwazi. I think that might be the data set or something related.
Yes. So accessing data sets there's no cost. If you're accessing existing data sets, it's more about whether you're authorized to access or not. So if there's an existing data set in Alwazi, from the DSI consortium, for example, and you've been authorized to access that, whoever's data set that is would have paid for storage, so that is available. So you would be able to come into a workspace and access that data set. If you want to compute in that same place, like on AWS, for wherever the data set is sitting, then you would just need to pay the compute costs. So you would need to have a billing account to be able to do that. Depends on how heavy the compute is. If it's really small analyses, then we'd be able to accommodate that probably at our local facilities. So there's no cost to access an existing data set. If you want to access Alwazi and have all your data stored there, then of course you'd need to have some sort of funding to store that data, depending on which cloud or on-prem solution you want to store that at.
Right, I can see Caesar Wisdom favors hand up. Please, can you unmute and then ask your question?
And yeah, while I'm answering, there are Ben, Garrett, there are a number of people from Alwazi here. So also, if I'm not answering well enough, or you have anything to add, then please jump in. Okay, Caesar, go ahead.
Just more or less a request. I'm a data scientist and a data engineer enthusiast. So I'm just interested, how could we be part of this great journey?
How you're part of Alwazi, or could you be part of the consortium in general?
How could we contribute? Like, given my background, I would like to be part of maybe the back end heavyweight lifting, like building platforms, like organizing up the data, because I know it goes through a lot of process. I'm doing the same kind of thing for a local organization here, but it gives me a wealth of experience, both locally and internationally. So that's why I asked.
Yeah. So thanks for that question. I think it'd be really nice to have people with expertise like you have involved in the development. So we have a survey form where you can join our working groups. At the moment, that's been for DSI consortium members, but we can definitely consider opening that up so that if you want to get involved in those working groups, and those working groups then they meet once a month, and then that's where they discuss the strategy for what development needs to happen. And then we have specific people working on specific components of the development of the platform, or the development of data science tools, or not necessarily the analytics, but it could be that also some of the projects would value your skills, and then you'd be able to sort of work with those projects. So there are a number of ways we can get you the survey, so you can join some of the working groups. You can join some of the activities that we run. We run hackathons, and then you could also, we have a help desk, and so if there are any sort of data science related questions, if you're willing to be a volunteer behind that help desk, then that would be fantastic too. So maybe you can drop me an email or put your email address in the chat, capture that, and see how we can get you involved.
Thank you. Caesar, are you still having a follow-up question, or we can permit Kitumi?
He said thanks in the chat.
No
right.
follow-up
All right.
questions. Thank
All right, thanks. Kitumi, go ahead.
Oh, hello, Nikki. Thank you for your presentation. Coincidentally, before now, I've been going through the Ewazi webpage to see how I could access. So a follow-up to your explanation is a suggestion. One, I would kind of advise if it is possible for you to put all of these processes for data access, the cost, and associated guidelines for scientists or researchers in data science space to access Ewazi, I think is going to be helpful since it's for Africa, domesticated in Africa. Although I have concerns, I don't understand why A3 Africa data for Africa is domesticated in the European database, EGA database, because it's just not clear to me. So I don't want to plug on that anyway. But two questions. One, Ewazi, you mentioned that Ewazi is also a computing platform. What softwares do you have? What softwares or computing tools? So for example, now, are you using SaaS or you're using HAR or something, or you have a network linkage online to access external computing system, external computing tools, or the Ewazi has its own independent computing tool? Thank you.
So yeah, on the H Africa data, it was a requirement by the funder that it had to be submitted to a public repository, and at the time, and even now, there is no African public repository. And I think there is information on the website. There's some documentation there that does give some idea about how to cost in terms of how to plan and cost in terms of cloud. So the tools that we use, as I said, we use J4GH standards, and so actually it's the tool repository service, the data repository service, the workflow execution service. So they have a number of tools and APIs that they've developed that actually facilitate this. So that was kind of strung together by so Terra used those, and Gen3 used those J4GH tools. I wonder if I can ask Gerrit or Ben if you have a better technical answer about the tools.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Can you restate the question?
So the question was, what tools do we use? What kind of technical solutions do we use in the platform? I said it's J4GH standards, it's the TERS WES.
Yes, so on the workflow front, as mentioned, DocStore is a key component of this. And full disclosure here, I'm the program manager for DocStore at the University of California in Santa Cruz. And one of the key, so DocStore being a repository for workflows, the two primary workflow types that we're looking at for Ewazi are WDL, workflow description language, which is supported today, and I believe Nextflow is in the pipeline to support. DocStore supports other workflow languages, but within the Ewazi context, those are the two primary ones. Outside of that, yeah, there are a bunch of interfaces, as Nikki is stating, into the system that allow you to communicate with it. As far as standards for data sharing, DERS is widely supported by the system. So you can easily point to various data sets and find them no matter where they're located. I do feel obligated to pull in the caveat of egress and ingress costs depending on where that data is located. But yeah, if you have specific questions, please feel free to reach out.
Great, thanks, Ben. Did that answer your question?
Oh, well, slightly, but just a follow-up to that is the fact that maybe you could think of this in the near future, and if it's the devil's advocate, just discard it. I think it would be appropriate for the EWASI to think of familiar tools that authors can access for computing. If the tools on EWASI for computing are not quite familiar or commonly used, and you understand that in Africa, we actually have problem with most of these computing tools in terms of access because of the cost of purchasing them. So my suggestion would be for EWASI in the near future, maybe you can consider computing tools that are familiar with people. Currently these days, R is the most familiar because of the free access and things like that. I think it will also help the acceptability and the visage of EWASI. But frankly speaking, EWASI is a good initiative. Thank you.
Thanks. So,
Yeah.
so actually that is, so DocStore does have those common tools. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, that's effectively what I was going to say. As far as DocStore, all the tools there are freely accessible. They're openly shared. And so those can be used in any compute platform that supports the relevant workflow language. Terra provides a broad range of tools. Now, per cost and that type of stuff, for cloud computing, and since it is a cloud computing based thing, there is the cost of the cloud compute. There's no additional charges for the tools on Terra, as I understand it. So there's a lot, and then on the EWASI platform that that Nikki was talking about earlier, that's growing and evolving. And yes, as if you have tools of interest that we don't support there, please share them and bring them up, and we can see what we can do. As I say, we're growing and evolving, so can't say we can do it quickly, but we can definitely add it to the list of things to look into.
Yeah. So I mean the containerization and the workflows, that's really what makes the tools more accessible. So it is actually a set of widely used tools for clinical data, for genomics data, for image data, and it also provides R Studio. So there's Jupyter Notebooks, it's got R. So actually it does have kind of most of the commonly used tools.
I think there's I have to go back and check. There's well over 3,000 tools within DocStore. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
So we just have a few more minutes for the session to end. Maybe Rolanda, if you have some comments.
No, nothing from my side. Thanks.
Okay. Nikki, maybe your final words?
Yeah, so thanks for the interest. And we will take on board what some of the suggestions. I think we will probably have it more obvious on our pages how to access EWASI, what are the use. We actually busy creating a data use, an EWASI use agreement, so that we can put there the criteria for using the platform. But if there's any other feedback or if you want to get involved, then please do let us know. We're here for the African community, and so we are happy to have people involved and to serve whatever needs you have within reason, because we only have a certain amount of funding. So thank you for attending.
All right, thanks very much. A big thank you to our two speakers and all of you for making the time to be with us. If you would require more information, you can find that on the website, and probably be able to also contact the two speakers for further information. Thank you all, and then I would like to also thank my colleague for moderating this. She's probably just left, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Winston.
Thanks.